Hi, I'm Kate from Bombora. Welcome to our session with Snowflake. These are going to be your true stars here. Really quick intro of Bombora for anybody who's unfamiliar. Bombora is the leading provider of B2B intent data. Bombora's data, our company surge intent data, tells you which businesses are researching the products that your company sells. Couple unique things about our data. Our data is collected from a B2B publisher co-op. It's pretty big. More than 4,000 publisher sites are part of it, and it makes sure that our data is really very relevant to B2B marketers because of the structure of this co-op. And PS, for those of you who work at enterprise organizations, it's also GDPR compliant data. We use natural language processing to understand the context of the data rather than just the presence of a keyword on a page. So the best example for that is we can discern between Apple the fruit and Apple the tech company, whereas intent providers who just scrape keywords often cannot. And we use best-in-class identity mapping to identify which organizations are actually doing that content consumption. There's a number of different ways that we do this resolution, and with people working remote, working from home, we always get these questions. We have a lot of different ways that we can still resolve who those people are. Our data is most valuable to enterprise organizations, and enterprise organizations often use VPNs, so that is one example of how we do this, but there's many ways that we can do that identity resolution. And final point on our data, we compare content consumption to a baseline. So we understand how much content consumption is considered normal or typical throughout the year, and we monitor for an increase in content consumption, which signals to us that that company is in market and is doing research on a solution and likely ready to buy in the near future. So that's it on Bombora's data. We'll take questions at the end. I'm going to hand it over to the Snowflake team, though, who has been using Bombora's data at Snowflake and probably at some previous companies, too. So they'll take you through how they're using that data, what their roadmap is for the future, and also take any of your guys' questions. So I'll hand it over to Hillary and Andy.
All right. I'm Hillary. I lead the account-based marketing function at Snowflake. I'm going to dive a little bit more into what that looks like here in a second. But Andy, introduce yourself.
Hey everyone, I'm Andy. I'm one of the managers that reports up to Hillary, and I currently manage a team of 4 on our ABM team. So before we dive deeper into what we do at Snowflake, just want to give you a brief introduction to Snowflake, because besides a super cute company name, there's actually good stuff going on. So at its core, Snowflake is a cloud data platform that helps companies essentially get faster access and secure access to their data in ways that they never have before. So across several of our workloads you see pictured here, we're really just helping companies solve business challenges like monetization, efficiency, productivity. And this is all to say that we target and sell to almost all companies out there, pretty much everyone. So from small startups to large Fortune 500 global companies, our sellers experience, some pretty intense or complex deals and sales cycles. So it's super important that we use Bombora to help us prioritize who we're marketing to, who we're selling to. It's part of the reason why we have such a deep marketing tech stack as well.
Cool. So I'm going to give you guys a little insight into ABM at Snowflake. We pride ourselves on doing things a little bit different than most. So while many, when you think about doing 2,000, 3,000 campaigns, we're looking at targeted demand gen. We actually do it all one-to-one for the most part. So you can see an example here of what a user experience might look like for Snowflake. You can see that there's a company name. Yes, that's not hard these days, right? But there's actually deeper data here that you wouldn't even realize looking at it. In addition to Comcast, you see there's an actual media and entertainment section of the ad with an image. You also see that there's a person. That person is carefully selected by the persona of the person buying. So both age, if they're in a suit versus in a tech center, there's a lot of customizations within here. Most importantly, that get unlimited data access for faster decisions. That's actually informed by Bombora. So I'm going to dive in a little bit more about how we pull that together. But I want to make sure we share why we do this and why we know it works. Most recently, we've quadrupled our SDR meeting rate with our different strategies in account-based marketing. This is consistent. So quarter over quarter, it's continued to go up. We're replicating this in both one-to-one and one-to-many across about 2,200 accounts in any given quarter. We've also increased known engagement, which are campaign responders to campaigns for you demand gen folks in the room, by 3x in ABM accounts versus non-ABM. We're seeing an 80% lift in our ACV in the different deals that our sales team is doing. And overall, we're hitting a 34% meeting rate. So about 1 in 3 to 1 in 4 accounts that an SDR calls into will actually turn into a completed meeting and carry over to be about 2x benchmark for op creation. So what we're doing is working. Our sales team is opt-in only. They don't have to work with ABM, and we have about 93% of all of our sellers who choose to work with us. So we're gonna show you guys a little bit more information about how we do what we do. But to start it off,
this is
Bombora for everything.
literally everything, and we can dive into that a little bit more on what we use Bombora for. So obviously we use Bombora intent company surge data to help us prioritize accounts for sales and marketing, what we should be going after, as well as what sort of topics should we be putting in our messaging. We have several workloads, we target several different personas, and that's all important information to make sure we're creating relevant campaigns and creating relevant ads, landing pages, and content based on what we know is being searched and surging on our Bombora reports. What's also cool for those Fortune 500 global companies, we're able to use our Bombora data to see, which different subsidiaries or lines of businesses may be surging. Where else can we crack into? Where else can we expand Snowflake at a specific company? And lastly, our field marketing team is using Bombora to understand what sort of topics make sense for their events and what region would best resonate for that event they're planning. Cool. So quick show of hands, how many of you have worked with sales reps who may assume they know exactly which accounts to target, or they think they know the right message? They just have like a really good gut feeling. They don't really use data. I've definitely worked with them. So what's important here is that, Bombora really helps us understand where to focus our time, energy, and resources, right? We're not just throwing spaghetti at a wall. We're taking a more strategic approach. And especially with us being a data company, it's important that we engage in data-driven account selection. So the way that we use intent data at Snowflake, you can think of it in two different approaches, right? A more proactive approach. So this is how we decide what sales top accounts are, or what our one-to-one campaigns are going to look like. Diving deeper into that, understanding which topic or messaging is going to resonate the most with those one-to-one campaigns. We'll also use the Bombora data to understand which non-sales nominated accounts should we put into a programmatic campaign, understanding which specific topics resonate the best for any given region or industry, and identifying those accounts that we want to target in a programmatic strategy. What's really cool too, 60% of a buyer's journey happens anonymously without the seller involved. Well, by using intent signals for our programmatic campaigns, we're able to take the sales teams we work with and put them in front of the right accounts before they get into a deep buyer's journey with like a competitor, for example. So one thing we really pride ourselves on is our insane alignment with the SDR org and the sales org. So by launching digital ad campaigns in parallel with the SDR and sales prospecting strategies, it's essentially like a 1-2 punch. You can't escape Snowflake.
Cool. So it's great to do this one-off, right? I can tell Andi, she used to be a seller in our organization before we stole her into the account-based marketing team. You can say, hey, this account's surging or that's account surging, and here's what you might want to talk to them about. But doing it at scale can be really hard. And one of the things that we think we're pretty good at is aligning across sales and marketing. So we work with our product marketing team, partner marketing team, field marketing team, demand gen team, SDRs, and sales. So that means that when somebody's invited to an event, it's around the same topic that they're also seeing ads for. That's the same topic that they're also getting outreach from our SDRs from. And when they click on an ad and see an experience, it's gonna be the same case study in that experience that the SDR is referencing. So no matter where they go, you get a consistent message about the same thing to the same person at the same time. And should they not engage, we then take those who didn't convert by email address and re-put them through the system and retarget them so we can convert at the end of the quarter to help those SDRs meet their goals and help sales meet their goals. So I told you I'd talk a bit about scale. My team has 15 people on it. Andi is one of our fearless leaders who leads our Fortune 500 accounts. We help about 150 SDRs. You guys, that's a lot of early career professionals to get all on the same page, doing the same thing, and reporting it and working everything. We're also working with about 200 sales reps in North America. I also have a partner in APAC as well as EMEA that are serving over 400 sales reps. We work across 6 key verticals and 6 key workloads. So like Andi was saying, we work with many, many companies who have 80 plus subsidiaries. So this is what I like to call our Roomba vacuum cleaner method, coined by myself, which is when you have a company of that size, and these are really massive deals for a lot of us in enterprise B2B, You may knock on one door and not get in, but Bombora helps us understand if we run into a wall, where is the open door to go through next, right? And like a Roomba, you just keep going until you find that sub or you find that line of business that you can get into. So this is how we kind of align ourselves. But we need to break it down into programs. So we break down into one-to-one strategic, one-to-one sales nominated, and then one-to-many. What's unique here is that we have a tier that our VPs select, right? And those are our Roomba accounts where they don't care if they're surging. I don't really care about anything. They're just like, hey, this is gonna make or break my quota, and I really need to get into it. So we'll use Bombora to help give us intelligence about what topics might resonate to get started, in addition to taking their feedback. We also have one-to-one nominated by AEs. Each AE gets to pick their top 7 accounts, and we'll help them select those accounts based off the data we have: technographic, firmographic, intent, engagement, first party, any other data we have to bring in there. We're a data company at the end of the day. But what used to happen is we were very reactive, right? When I joined the organization, sales got to pick any account they wanted, and we went after them. That's still somewhat true today, but now we play a much larger role in saying, hey, sales, here's who we think you're gonna have the best results with. It doesn't take long until you start making those early wins where they start coming to you and asking, what accounts should I be going after? So this is one of the ways I talk about creating sales and marketing alignment, is we want to look for early wins. And whenever I talk to other people, I'm mentoring, working with startups, I say you need to use Bombora to get your early win so the sales team knows they know what they're talking about, and I just got in. One great example here is we were going after an account where we weren't going after an account, but it was on a target account list for several years. We put it up through Bombora. I call it Bombora Blast. Think about Mario Kart driving down the way. They're just doing their normal sales cycle. You hit that little booster, and then you're like, woo! That's why I call it Bombora Blast. But they got into the account, found out they were 80% of the way through a POC with a competitor. We ended up closing and winning the deal. Had we never had this data, we never would have reached out to the account to get the meeting to then close the deal. It's money on the table for your sales reps and a great way for you to create alignment. But how do you scale it? You have to have the infrastructure, right? If you want to do this at scale, you want to do it across this number of reps and SDRs and workloads and verticals. So we actually start from the beginning, categorizing our keywords along with our personas, along with our different workloads, bundling them up, creating content that aligns, creating the SDR outreach sequences, creating direct mail, creating ads, creating matrices, so that when something surges, everything is lined up to go off in that 1-2 punch order. So it makes it very scalable. So you work with your sales development team, your business development team, and say, hey, when this surges in data science, you click the data science thing here. And they go together, right? In field marketing, you have a data science event, that account's gonna go in there as well. So it's a really easier way to orchestrate across your sales and marketing teams. So how do you put it all together? This is our favorite slide at Snowflake for ABM, seems to resonate really well. So we sync as humans in a room, virtual room on Zoom, with our SDR manager, with our SDR, with our sales leaders. In that conversation, we combine what do you know about the account? Who have you talked to? Who is that person? What do they care about? What are their challenges? We combine that with the data we have, and we make a game plan together. We prioritize the accounts using primarily Bombora, but some other data as well. We target them, like I was just saying. We use Rollworks for our ads. We use LinkedIn as well as a great source for targeting. And then we display on Uberflip with some help from Mutiny and Intellimise and others. We then do some prospecting. We found during the pandemic that we use ReachDesk, but e-gift cards have really helped. They've become one of our most effective in converting to meeting campaigns that we do, and it helps put money back in the local economy. I will note when we started doing this is before there was all those commercials from Domino's that it actually doesn't help the local economy, but we didn't know that, so we had really good intentions when we started. And then I intentionally left the results blank, one, because I shared some data with you already, but two, I think one of the hardest things about account-based marketing and even intent is how do you measure the effectiveness, right? It's like, great, I got like 80 topics and I subscribed and like I know it works, but how do I tell somebody else it worked? So we look at the lift compared to ABM versus non-ABM. You can do intent versus not intent. Outbound meeting rate, I told you guys about. Meeting completion rate, so are they not only getting more meetings, but are they actually good meetings that they're completing? And then SQO rate, what are the opportunities coming out of these meetings? Almost guaranteed they're gonna be higher because you're getting people who are interested in what you're selling instead of just going to the cold accounts. So I'll let Andy talk about timeline.
So timeline for our typical ABM programs span over the course of a quarter or so. And again, the first 3 parts on here are all in alignment with our sales team, right? So again, we rely heavily on the data that the sales reps know, like where are they in their account journey, who have they engaged with, but then again, the data coming from Bombora and intent. So once we're all aligned there, we launch our strategic marketing campaigns, and we purposely let it sit for about 2 weeks before the SDRs activate their outbound sequences. This is because we want to make sure that we're turning cold calling into a more warm calling motion for the SDRs. So we're making sure that all of their touches are valuable. All of their touches have been warmed up already. They're not just running into a brick wall cold. We like to make sure that we're supporting them for about 2 weeks before launching. And Hillary mentioned earlier, by the end of the quarter, if there's people that haven't converted via an SDR meeting or conversation or form fill, we'll retarget those same exact people through digital ad campaigns and continue to nurture and warm them up.
So we work, like I said, closely with our sales development organization. Something to point out, we were not working closely with our sales development organization a few years ago. This is something we've built over time and have grown together like a family. But we are consistently hearing we got in the door because of ABM. One note too, we were helping some SDR managers, right, end of quarter, meet their quota, and we came to them with data. We helped them re-engage their accounts using Bombora as one of our sources. And I can't remember the exact number from Quinn, but there is, if you look at the number of meetings created in the end of the quarter last year versus this year, there was an insane uptick. It works, guys. That's just, the numbers are there. It works. So I put some key results on the slide here in case we haven't convinced you that you need Bombora. I am not being paid by them at all. I just love the company, and I am convinced they're the absolute best. But I mentioned we achieved 4x the SDR benchmark. Doing this at scale for one-to-many is unheard of. I stood in front of our CMO and QBRs this quarter and have a graph of here's the one-to-one meeting rate, here's one-to-many. To be able to achieve that type of targeting, that type of penetration, that type of relevance at scale is really difficult to do, and we're doing it because we have the right partners beside us. And we also pulled this data point up, another thing I actually shared on my QBRs as well, which is every quarter when we do these different Bombora surge events and use our data to pick a theme, we do it per region. And that really allows the sales leaders to feel like they still have control over what they want to do in their region. So one might choose healthcare data science, another might choose retail marketing analytics, right? Within the regions, we had one in particular say like, no, I just want to do this topic. I don't want to take the data from you guys. They saw a 14% meeting rate, and everybody else saw between 30 to 40%, and one had a 66% meeting rate. So now we get to go back to sales with this and say, are you sure? Because we can help you get 30 to 40% of your accounts as opposed to 14% of your accounts if we can help you guys. So I think my takeaway that I really want to leave you guys with is having a key win, finding your adopters. So you might have 99 sales reps who want nothing to do with the data you have to offer. But if you can find just one who's interested and one who's willing to work with you, that one person can spread across the entire marketing organization and the entire sales organization. So whether that be with Bombora data, whether that be with just doing targeted campaigns, it's a really great way to start creating that relationship between sales and marketing that really needs to go both ways and really helps us reach a level of success that we just can't do alone in marketing or can't just do alone in sales. It's key to hypergrowth. So.
Yeah, we do hear this often. I couldn't have hit my quota without the ABM team. Makes us feel warm and fuzzy inside, but also we can't do what we do best without Bombora and all the other tech tools in our stack. So very exciting. I'm also really excited that it doesn't stop here. There's so much more happening. So for example, Snowflake has introduced verticals or industries as our go-to-market strategy. Right now, our Bombora topics are mostly focused around the workloads that I showed at the beginning of the presentation, and now we're taking a more industry approach. So our next step is to work with our amazing CSMs and make sure that we're expanding our Bombora topic list to include the industry use cases that our product marketing team will be focusing on for the duration of the next few years. So we'll be able to see, now what kind of industry use cases should we prioritize next for our next launch? What kind of accounts are going to be using these industry use cases? Which demand gen tactics would hit the right accounts, and so forth. And lastly, we've seen so much success with Bombora in the US that we've expanded it to our EMEA team. She's super excited to continue using Bombora there. And who knows, maybe in the next few months we'll introduce it to APJ as well. So possibilities are endless, and we're just excited to continue hitting the success metrics that we have been.